Welcome, listeners, to an episode that's about to ignite your motivation and leave you inspired. Our guest today is a true dynamo, a motivational speaker, storyteller, and a master at turning real-life experiences into captivating narratives. She's not just an entrepreneur, fitness and life coach, and course creator. She's also a friend, a mom, and a powerful improviser who knows how to handle life's curveballs with resilience. From door-to-door sales as a kid to building multiple successful businesses, Lori thrives on challenges. Her experience as an improviser has honed her quick wit, allowing her to bring laughter and spontaneity to every situation. My next guest is Lori Smith. Lori, thanks for being with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here, Sean, on your show. And I just have to shout Sean out for our audience here. I have to tell you how I know Sean. So this goes back to, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had seen Sean on a comedy stand-up. And I thought he was hilarious. We were out with some friends. I had never seen Sean. And his bit left me thinking about this guy. I was like, he was so funny. And then, not too long after, I saw on Instagram a post about Sean doing an improv class. I got my credit card out as fast as I could, and I signed up for this improv class because I love all things speaking, entertaining. And let me tell you, you guys, he is an incredible teacher, mentor, entertainer, and friend. So I'm super happy to be here today.
Well, thank you so much. I had no idea you were going to talk about that. I'm not going to cry today.
Oh my gosh. And we've gone on to do corporate shows.
Yeah.
Countless improv shows. We've done a lot together.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a ton of fun. And one of the things that we want to talk about today, and part of the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast, is because confidence is something that everyone is desiring, and something about improv in the classes you took with us, it does something. I think you in your life, you came into the improv class already with confidence. For people who are wanting more, improv is just a really great way to fast track that. So that's part of the reason I wanted to talk to you about where you came from, because your life, you're not just an entrepreneur and started many successful businesses and a mom and all, you started somewhere. And I think I'd love to give people some tips or tricks of the journey to get through those rough patches, those rough places. If we can help give them a shortcut, I think that would be really great.
Oh, I would love it. So can I share some stories with you?
Yeah, please.
So, this makes me think of a time when years ago, I was a new mom. I had 3 small kids. We were really struggling, big time. And my sister and I were doing the yard sale thing. Mm-hmm. And Gary Vee, for those of you that follow Gary Vee, Gary Vee is a huge fan of thrifting at yard sales and flipping.
Right.
Well, this was before it was cool.
Okay.
We were shopping for our kids' clothes at yard sales. And this one time, my sister and I, we were like, we need to make some money. What do you think about this TV armoire? It was $75. And, this was 20 years ago.
Like a television that was built into...
No, a cabinet that holds a television.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was $75. And that was significant back then, but they were really popular back then. So we thought, what if we could flip this on Craigslist? Because Marketplace hadn't taken off yet. And we thought, well, should we try it? And so we split the money, paid the $75, and within that week, we flipped it for $150.
Nice.
So we doubled our money.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this light bulb goes off in my brain, and I go, wait a second, there's value here.
Yeah.
And so the next weekend, we went yard selling, and then and we kept flipping. Well, over time, this created a sustainable income. I've made minimum 10 to $30,000 or $40,000 a year from this business for the last 20 years.
Just from
flipping items. I flipped thousands and thousands and thousands of items. And I share this because for those that are watching that are struggling, we get stuck in our comfort zone. And we start thinking that we're just locked into whatever our situation is, and there's no out. Maybe it's a job you hate, or maybe you're going through a divorce, or there's some kind of financial stress. Your car broke down. You don't have the $500 to get it fixed.
Right.
But then you feel stuck in it, and they forget to look outside of their comfort zone. Well, that's exactly what I did. And since then, that money was like my fun money. I took vacations with it. I put in a full landscaping on a new house with it. I mean, it's been incredible. And it's so easy to do, relatively speaking. I mean, I did flip a lot of furniture. So furniture is heavy, and it's a little bit harder of a thing to flip because you have to have a truck or a trailer, and you have to have an extra set of hands, you know.
Yeah, to load
Yep. And you have to have somewhere to store it and to stage it and take pictures. But I'm telling you, like, there are opportunities that our listeners have right in front of their faces, and maybe they just need to take that next step into that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. I was just going to say, there's times in our lives where a little bit of extra cash can go a long way.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a truck, or if you have a brother or a friend that has a truck that you can borrow to do this kind of thing, all of a sudden you're making some extra money on the side. I think that's so helpful, especially for those of us who are like, I could use a couple extra, or in your case, a couple $1,000 extra a month.
Yeah, like, how would that change your life, you know? $2,000, $4,000, even $500 might change somebody's situation.
So talk about, you started introducing your children to this, right? Talk about how instead of getting like a job flipping burgers, not that there's anything wrong with that, but instead of...
they did that too.
They did that too? Okay, good. So you started introducing them how to do this, and then it entered them into this entrepreneurial mindset.
Oh, 100%. Not only did my kids watch me and help me, and, they dabbled in it and would make a little bit of extra money. They were teenagers, and, it depended on how much time they'd put in to, getting the money. But a really good example of this was my niece, my sister, who originally started with me and continued as well. Her daughter needed to pay for college. Her parents were tight on money, and so she took a summer and, borrowed her dad's truck, went out yard selling, had the wisdom of her mom with her, and she earned $10,000 cash that summer and paid for her own schooling.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so great.
And, going back to how it's influenced my kids' lives, I've always been a huge fan of investing in my kids as far as manifestation, believing in them, showing them what's possible, putting up your dreams and your goals. And especially my oldest has gone on to become an entrepreneur and very successful in his business pursuits. So he's watched that. That I've always been an outside of the box thinker. And, I look at when we are in situations of pain, it's so easy, and I'm guilty of this, to go into that victimhood mindset, right? When we should be in an opportunity mindset. Right. Because every situation in my life personally that has kicked me down, beat me up, I felt frustrated, and financial pressure can be some of the most stressful pressure. Yeah. I've had the harder pressures as well, but we're talking about the financial stuff. It's heavy every day and it weighs on you. But when you look at it like, okay, I've been given this gift of this situation. How am I going to rise above it and make more money or get myself out of this situation? Sometimes you can't change that situation. That's
so good, Lori. I just want to encapsulate this concept of everything's a gift if you treat it like one, where life is not going to be easy. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's going to get tough. And when it does, we got to press into our own resilience, the things that we've learned along the way, and turn that around. Like it's this, I love this saying, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So we take that energy, it makes it stronger, and then now we can create and give back. And now the tough time that you went through where you're like, let's start flipping some couches. Now you're teaching your kids how to do it, and your cousins or nephews or nieces, they're like paying for college. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And not to mention, I mean, my other two kids have gone on to own their own businesses and do their own pursuits. So, you know, they watch what you do.
That's right.
And how you rise above your situation. But, you know, this is such a great example of taking a hard situation when we were down on our luck, with young, struggling family, to then having that extra income. And so I want our listeners to get into their mindset that what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on the negativity in your life right now, and the hardship and the struggle, and I can't meet my bills, or, you know, this or that, that's what you'll get more of.
That's right.
And when you put your eyes on the opportunity or the gift that we're talking about, you can change your circumstance.
That's right. Oh, I was just listening to this this study that was done about luck and like why some people were quote unquote lucky, and really it plays into scientifically into our reticulating activator system, our RAS, that filter in our brain that, you know, when you buy a car, let's say you buy a blue Volkswagen, all of a sudden you see it, they're everywhere, right? You see it because your brain says, oh, this is important to you. So if your brain has been saying, oh, life sucks, doesn't it? And when it rains, it pours. You start seeing the pouring of the rain, right?
That's exactly right.
But when you start saying to yourself, it's going to get better, all things work together for good in the end. So if it's not good, it's not the end. Like when you start changing your mindset and reformulating the things that you're looking for, this is actually why vision boards work, right? Putting those things that you want. This is why that verse in the Bible, it says like, knock and you shall find, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open to you. It's why these principles, we can apply them today, and then all of a sudden we can reroute our lives. It's very similar to the there's a whole concept that when someone comes from another country into our country, what's that called? The immigrant's mindset. Yeah, the immigrant's mindset, where they're looking for opportunity.
They're hungry.
and they
see it.
That's right.
They see it so much more than we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no excuses.
No. Well, and we become complacent.
Yeah.
Right. And we've found mediocrity comfortable, and we can't get out of this flow that we're in because we actually aren't asking ourselves the question, what is it that I really want? Who is it that I really am? And how do I want to leave this world? And, you know, and I think becoming a parent has made that such a more louder sound. It's become an echo for me of how do I want to leave this place for my kids. So, which means I can't just drift through life.
Yeah.
You know, I can't just go along with how things are. I can be a change agent. And in order to do that, you have to go out and get what you want.
Exactly. And getting clear on what you want is the first step.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
I love that.
So you and your sister, at one point, you set out as entrepreneurs. You did the flipping thing together.
Yep.
And then you decide, you start this wedding magazine, right?
So yes, that's years later.
Okay.
And as you know, back in 2008 was the economy crash.
Oh yeah.
And at the time we were running an appraisal company, and we had 2 different mortgages. We owned 2 different houses, properties, and our income, like literally overnight, went to half. And we were like, oh my gosh, we took on all this, debt. And now what do we do?
Yeah.
And so we ended up having to short sale our home. It was a beautiful home, 5-car garage, everything. And my kids and the landscaping I had put in, like everything. It was devastating. I remember crying in that living room empty and thinking, like, what is going on? We were going to have to move back in with my parents. Talk about a sobering moment.
Nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to move back in with their parents, And so,
Just joking, Mom and Dad, I love you.
We love you. But I remember distinctively one night I was laying in bed and I was just fraught with concerns and stress and worry and the heaviness of the situation. And I was praying and I said, God, you got to give me something. I got to help out. And how do I do this? What idea, do you have for me? And, it doesn't always happen like this, but for some reason it did for me in that moment. And that was, you need to start a magazine. And I
Wild.
was like, because I haven't been to college for this. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a publisher. Like, why? But I listened to it because it was inspired and I knew. And when you know.
Yeah.
And the next day I was like, okay, I called my sister and her husband and we all four got together and I said, you guys, I prayed and I'm going to start a wedding magazine. Michelle, my sister, do you want to do it with me? And we literally bought the license. The manual to the business was like 3 to 4 inches thick. And I'm not somebody to go through the details of it, so I skimmed through it if I'm being honest.
Same way.
Yeah.
Contract, where do I sign? No.
Yeah, exactly. So we had this license to use their name and them as a shipper and all of that. And we had this idea. Well, so that was September. And our goal was to go to print January 1 of that year with a full magazine. So in these little magazines, we sold advertising. That's what we did. That's how we made our money. So in the month of October here in the Treasure Valley, we set up 75 appointments with business owners. And we would go in, and I was like the lead salesperson, and I had done my homework. I put in the time to know what the stats were against my competition and what I could offer them, because you have to remember, Sean, I didn't have a physical product. I had never printed anything. And here I was sitting down and telling them, this ad is going to get out to the right people, and, I can promise you this and this and this. That's a lot of faith without seeing.
Sure.
I was lending the credibility of the company back to the 1980s and what they had done, but I had never actually printed on my own. So this was all new territory, and our appointments were going great. I really felt confident. I was telling them we're going to deliver 10,000 copies a month to all of these locations. This is, the price I would put you at. And I got a lot of really good responses. Well, this continued for 3 weeks. And the problem is at every single meeting, I would say, well, Bill, it was really great to meet you. I really recommend the half-page ad. I'll get back to you next Tuesday. Well, I'd leave. And next Tuesday, I'd call Bill. Hey, Bill, it's Lori. And all of a sudden, Bill didn't have the budget. He overpromised. It was like that over and over and over again.
Okay, so you're entering into sales and having to learn how to close.
Yeah,
am I right?
Exactly right. Right. And there's a purpose I'm telling this. So for 3 weeks, I heard no after no after no. And finally, we had a guy promise the front page. He was a photographer, great guy. We totally had, rapport. We left. We were so excited, high-fiving, and we're going to get back to him. It was the same story. I may have overpromised you, I think I'm going to wait until next quarter. Yeah. And all of a sudden, that was it. That was the last shoe to drop for me. Okay. And I remember being in the car with my sister, and you have to remember, we had just gone out and busted our tails for 3 weeks.
Right.
And it was no after no. And this time I broke down and I cried and cried and cried in the car with her. And I was cursing. I was thinking, why? Who was I to think that I could start a magazine? Like, I'm not a publisher, Why would God put this on my heart if I couldn't do it? And, we had it out. We had this conversation. I was really like, okay, like soul searching, like, God, why? And all of a sudden I had what I call a God knock. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not asking for the sale right then. And it was like this frantic energy of like, I know how to fix this. And I went and I got all the contracts and I went and we went to our next appointment. I sat down with Sally, really pretty brunette in the wedding industry. And I sat across from her and I said, okay, Sally, this is your half-page ad. How would you like to take care of that today? MasterCard or Visa? And she's like, MasterCard. She got up and went and got her card. And, this was back in the day when I'm doing it by hand. And I went, oh my gosh, it worked.
Yeah.
And after that, I closed 90% of everybody I sat down with.
Wow.
And we went to print January 1 with a full magazine, and we were always in the positive in that business.
Wow.
Like, it was that defining moment, right?
Yeah.
And there's two major things that I want to touch on here, and that is at the beginning, if you go back to how sad and pathetic I was at the time, licking my wounds that we were losing our house and moving back in with mom and dad, I had that God knock. I had that moment of clarity, like, this is inspired action, take it. But it was so out of my comfort zone. Yeah. This was scary. This was terrifying. And yet, when you put the foot in front of the next foot and you do the action, you gain the confidence. Yeah. Because every appointment I sat down with, I gained a little bit more confidence.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people will give up at one point, and then they'll be like, why'd you tell me to do that, God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they end up missing out on this thing where it's like they were so close, right? So you went to this point of like, okay, this didn't work, but I'm not done yet. And then
I was almost done.
You were almost done. Okay.
Almost done. But yes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point, is like, you are closer than you think you are. When you have failed and failed and failed, sometimes it's right around the corner for you if you will keep going.
That's right. I think it was Thomas Edison, it was Albert Einstein who said that the greatest failure is for those who gave up right before they broke through. I butchered that quote, but it's the idea of like...
We've all seen that cartoon of the guy that is like chipping through the brick wall.
There's the gold right on the other side.
And then he quits.
Yeah.
Like, you're so close, And again, me sitting in the car after failing, that was another defining moment. Like, I could have just been angry, lost my money from what we invested into the business and walked away and done what you said. Like, why, God, did you put this on my heart and not deliver?
Right.
Well, wait a second. This could have been a totally different story. And so for those of you that are watching, like, where in your life are you at that point where you want to give up, and maybe you're closer than you think you are?
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Wow. Well, I don't know if we can talk about this yet, but you showed me this TikTok on this squishy piggy, where I want to see if Grady can actually like show us a clip of Squishy Piggy. But it's this rubber pig that people can just like decimate, like punch it, throw it off of buildings, and it just makes this really silly, funny sound. But that's part of your next endeavor. It's one of the things you're going to be doing on the side or whatever, is you're selling this Squishy Piggy to alleviate stress, or it's just silly.
It's a decompression toy, but if you really need to beat something up, it's perfect. Yeah, I'm getting into the e-com business and drop shipping, and that's a product that's one of the many things that I'm working on right now. It's very fun, as you know. Yeah. It's going to be a blast.
It's really funny.
So it's in its infancy right now, but if you're on TikTok, check out Squishy Piggy. It has 2 E's, Squishy Piggy, and
We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah.
So speaking of having something to offer, you and I've been working together for almost 2 years now on this course that is the thing that everyone is after, and that's more confidence. So Lori did this thing. I'd love for you to talk about it just a little bit, where you did 100 videos, 100 live videos on Facebook in 100 days.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
To where you just set up, you go live on your Facebook, and you just start talking about a particular topic.
Yeah.
And
so, I love that you brought that up, because many years ago, I've been doing coaching for, 20 years. And I was doing coaching inside my house, inside my office, so in-person coaching. And then, probably 6-7 years ago, I took it to an online platform. And I had a mentor at the time, and she challenged me to go live on Facebook for 100 days. Every day. And I was scared. And I had done a lot of speaking events up to that point. I spoke to thousands of people, and I had coached, but there was something about the live element that I was like, I am not a fan.
Yeah.
Like, you can't edit it. What you say is what you say. How you look is how you look. So it was intimidating.
Yeah.
So when I got that challenge, I accepted it. But it took me about a week and a half before I actually hit the live button. And I was scared. If you go back and watch that first video, I was scared. And I had prepared for it and planned for it, and I shared stories. So I did this journey, and I took myself out of the equation, and I really shared stories from my life that I had gleaned wisdom from with the audience. And I just wanted to serve the audience without asking for anything in return. And throughout that process, I learned how to feel more confident on camera and how to relate with an audience and how to serve at a higher level.
Yeah.
And I had opportunities just flooding in. Like, I had somebody from across the world pay for me to go see Brendan Burchard in conference. He paid for the whole thing. I had another author reach out to me and said, I love what you're doing. You know, how are you doing this? Like, your content is amazing. How are you coming up with this? Like, it was driving people. And he offered me a trip to Sedona for 4 days for me and my family because he wanted to just gift it to me.
Wow.
Like, and I'm not saying this because I'm anything special, but when you get out of your own way and you do that very thing that scares you, and you serve people because you love them, there's something very powerful in that. And from that journey, at the end of that 100 days, I thought, okay, I have served, right? What have I learned from this? And I've learned how to do live videos.
Right.
And so then it gave birth to my very first online challenge, How to Find Your Voice.
Nice.
And from there, Find Your Voice took off. It went from a challenge to a program, and then it was multiple programs and high-ticket coaching, and it really started the whole foundation for my coaching business. So it's impacted so many lives from around the globe, and watching my students go from nervous and stammering on camera and, you know, it's pointed up their nose to going live in their own groups and starting a group. And some have gone on to be authors, some have gone on to be speakers, some are doing really great in their MLMs. Like, I had a gal reach out to me yesterday from my Find Your Voice that she took 6 years ago. And she said, you have impacted my life. I'm so grateful for you. And I was like, oh my gosh. But again, it's not because I'm great. But when you are the vessel and willing to do the thing that scares you, there's so much good behind it.
I think that's one of the things I love about you, Lori, is you share these stories not to impress people, but to impress upon them that you can do it too.
You can do it too,
right?
Yeah, I'm nothing special.
Well, you are special, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's this idea of like, you weren't born with the silver spoon. You weren't given all of the tools. You acquired a lot of your skill set from crashing and burning and failure and learning and growing and developing and gifting other people. So now you have this voice where other people are like, I want to learn from you, right? So, which is why I wanted to work with you in the first place, where I was like, I hadn't done 100 live videos in 100 days. And I was in this process where I was having like people who were running for office, for senator, and who were asking me to coach them on camera. Like you and I right now are in studio where we have 3 cameras filming this right now. And to be able to do that for a lot of people, that would cause them to
terrify
panic.
them.
Right. So there's someone who's watching right now that they know that they have a message that could transform someone either in their family or their home life or across the globe, but they've been reluctant. They've been listening to the sound of fear, and it's kept you from getting your message out there. I just want to encourage you to not let that stop you. And you might need a couple of tips and tricks along the way so that you can get your message that's in you out of you. So I'm gonna, if that's you and you're interested in our online on-camera confidence course, I'm just gonna leave a description in the link. If you want more information on that, you can take a look at it.
Well, and I think, I'm so grateful that we teamed up because you are such a powerful teacher and one of the most amazing storytellers I have ever heard. And that's why you're just stuck with me. Like for 8 years, I've been following you around, and whenever Sean has an opportunity, I'm in. Like, it's not even a question, because that's who you are. And you're as much yourself on the camera as off the camera, and it speaks to your character. Like, you're an amazing human, an entertainer, speaker, the list goes on. So for us to collaborate our experiences and come and share with you guys on how to actually develop the confidence. And I'd like to give them one of our tips,
Sure.
if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, here we go. You ready for it? Action builds confidence, not the other way around. And that's where people get stuck, is they think, I have to feel confident in order to do the thing.
Right.
Gosh, I wouldn't have done anything in my life if I had to feel confident before I did it.
Yeah, confidence comes from experience. And so you have to give yourself permission to fail a couple of times, fail fast, learn from it, just like you did from every story that you've mentioned on this podcast. It's like from flipping furniture to the magazine and being like, God, why? I thought you told me to start this magazine. And then you hear the God knock and you're like, oh, I'm not done yet. I need to ask right now. And some of us are not asking what you want. You're being very vague, and you're saying like, yeah, this would be great, wouldn't it? Maybe we'll circle back, and it's like, what is it you want? Ask for it, go and get it. Because guys, life is short. Make it sweet and get what you want out there.
Yeah, I love that. I think get out of your own way and do it scared. And just start, because that confidence will build. It will accrue.
Yeah. That's
I got tongue-tied.
Yeah.
But I promise you, on the other side of your comfort zone is success.
That's right.
And that's what separates a lot of people. So I think today has been amazing, hopefully somebody out there feels inspired to do that thing that's on their heart today, and to embrace the feeling of, I don't know if this is going to work. I feel scared, and to do it anyway. If that's all we've done today, I am a happy girl, because that's all it takes.
Yeah. Well, Lori, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today. And to your point, guys, I hope you got something from this. And if you did, please like and share this with other people. Our goal is for more people to be inspired by good messages out there. And if you got something, or if you know someone who's going to glean something from this episode, please make sure you share it and that always helps us in the YouTube algorithm. So thank you again for those of you who are watching, and we'll see you next time on Off the Cuff.